Bust, if anybody is unfamiliar. I'm going to name players. Casey and Steven and I are all going to give our takes on if we think that they're going to boom or bust in week 3. First player on the list. One of our fellow Cowboys. I'm wearing his jersey right now. Mr. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb against the Cincinnati Bengals last week had 7 receptions off 11 targets with 75 yards, 0 touchdowns. Dallas is taking on the New York Giants this week in New York on Monday night. Steven, we're bust on CeeDee Lamb in week 3.
That's a Monday night game this week.
I'm hoping he booms just to kind of, well, I'm going to say boom because I'm playing your team. So naturally my players should do really well this week.
Yeah, that's true.
CeeDee Lamb, by the way, right now is ranked as wide receiver 55. A lot of people drafted him as their 2nd round pick.
Steven.
Out of the entire Dallas offense, Lamb was probably the fantasy asset that was under the microscope most in Cooper Rush's first game as starting quarterback. With this pressure, he delivered a solid fantasy performance while leading the team in targets. Great bounce back from week 1 because week 1 was trash. Despite a good sign of connection between Rush and Lamb. Rush really does like to throw to Lamb, which is good. But I see him as a wide receiver too, and he's playing the Giants this week. I'm going to say boom because I think either the Giants are good or they're going to get exposed this week. But I don't think they're as good as they've been playing. Also, the Dallas, this game is going to come down to defenses, and I think Dallas has a better defense. So I'm picking the Giants to lose to Dallas, and CeeDee Lamb booms.
Quick shout out to Janeth. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday, Janeth.
Happy birthday.
I think CeeDee Lamb will boom this week. Steven, he's on your fantasy team. I'm playing Steven this week, so that's already a given there. He'll probably go for like 40 fucking points somehow.
Damn. All right, start CeeDee Lamb, guys. He's playing Daniel.
Yeah. The next pick I have, same game, different team. It's going to be Mr. Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. In week 2 versus Carolina, Saquon had 21 attempts for 72 yards. He averaged 3.4 yards per carry. His longest carry was 16 yards. He also had 3 receptions for 16 yards and no touchdowns. Steven, on an unbiased fantasy pick, boom or bust for Saquon Barkley against the Dallas Cowboys. Tough run defense in week 3.
It is a tough run defense, but the Cowboys have been giving up runs up the middle. That could lead to some big runs for him, which is not good for us Cowboy fans, but good for my fantasy team. He showed up week 1. He went off week 1. Week 2, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but I think he'll be very consistent this week. So I think I'm going to say boom.
So perfect. Saquon Barkley. And then you have your Dallas Cowboys defense, which you called a tough defense, correct?
Yes.
Tough run defense?
I believe that.
So let me throw some stats at you. The Cowboys rush defense, you're giving up 120 rush yards per game, and you're giving up about 18 points per game to running backs. So I'm going to have to go boom here with Mr. Saquon Barkley. I like their offensive line. I like what the Giants did in the offseason, and I think he's going to find the end zone this Monday.
I'm still going to go bust because Saquon Barkley is very hit or miss. He is not a consistent player. I still believe in Dallas's defense. I believe in the defensive line. I think Dallas is getting their shit together 1 week at a time. And I think Dallas's defense is the only thing they really have going for them right now. So I'm going to say bust on Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to game plan for Saquon Barkley because the Giants don't have a great receiving core. Next player that we have is wide receiver from the Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Love Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown in the first 2 weeks of the NFL has played ridiculously well. They almost came back on the Eagles in week 1. Week 2, they beat out the Commanders at home. In week 2, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 receptions on 12 targets for 116 yards. He averaged 13 yards per catch, 12.9. He had 2 touchdowns and a long of 49 yards for catching. He also ran the ball twice for 68 yards. Going into Minnesota, though, could be a different story. I think Minnesota might bounce back this week. But Steven, we'll go ahead and start with you on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Boom or bust?
So he's been pretty productive these past 2 weeks. He played a good Eagles team, played a not so good Commanders team. I think the Commanders are starting to show their colors now. But the Vikings, we don't know what the Vikings are. I think Jared Goff will probably use him very productively. I think he's going to boom again.
Boom, 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 boom. Don't want you in my room.
Because he's on your team.
I say boom too. St. Brown was absolutely terrific on Sunday. He proved everything to everyone that he's a wide receiver 1. He is wide receiver 2 in fantasy right now, believe it or not. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 3 touchdowns on the season, which ranks 1st in the league. He also has 17 receptions total, which ranks 3rd in the league. He is clearly a set and forget candidate for the rest of the season. I say boom. He finds the end zone this week too.
Next player we have Washington
The
Commanders.
Commanders.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Stats last week, he completed 30 for 46. He had a 65.2 completion percentage. He threw for 337 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 99.7. So boom or bust on Carson Wentz.
I'm gonna go bust. This Eagles team is probably showing its true colors, and they're really good. And if they did what they did to Justin Jefferson this week, the Commanders probably won't put up any points, honestly. So I'm gonna go bust.
I don't think the Eagles defense is that good.
You said
They
that
just
last
showed
week.
out because it was their home opener.
It was Monday night.
It was Monday Night Football, and we all know how bad Kirk Cousins is on primetime games. I think he's only won 1 ever.
I think he's 2-28 now.
Yeah,
after
that's
last night
insane.
in primetime
Eagles
games.
defense. They've had 60 total targets thrown against them. 44 have been receptions. They've given up 576 receiving yards this year. Carson Wentz can sling the ball. He's got Scary Terry on his team. He's got Jahan Dotson, the new rookie, on their team. He has been pretty remarkable to start the season. They also have Curtis Samuel on their team, who I have in another fantasy league, and he went off last week. They're going to sling the ball. I think they're going to score some points. I'm going to say boom for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is also ranked quarterback 4 in fantasy right now, believe it or not.
Yeah, he went fucking nuts in week 2.
Yeah, he went crazy. So I'm going to say boom on Carson Wentz. I think I'm all booms right now. I don't think I have a bust.
I'm going to agree with Casey here. I think Carson Wentz is finally getting his shit back together.
Colts should have
After
kept
he
him, to be
departed
honest.
from Philly, after Nick Foles went and won him a Super Bowl, he did get them to the playoffs, don't get me wrong, but Nick Foles won them
He
that
did.
Super Bowl. Carson Wentz departed, ended up in Indianapolis for a year. Aaron Donald mauled him, broke both of his ankles, and ruined the Colts season. He is now in Washington with the Commanders, and through 2 weeks has shown out pretty well. So he might be back. I'm going to boom for Carson Wentz this week against the Philly defense. Casey, you listed a lot of really good receivers on the Commanders roster, and I think Philly comes back down to earth just a little bit
Same.
this week. Darius Slay fucking shut down Justin Jefferson last week, but honestly, a lot of a lot of it was because Kirk Cousins can't make an accurate throw. Okay, so we have 2 booms for Carson Wentz, and Steven is gonna go for bust on that one. Next player we have Tua Tagovailoa. Week 3, the Dolphins are playing the Bills in Miami. So, in week
That's
2 against the Ravens in their comeback, Tua completed 36 for 50 attempts. He had a 72% completion percentage. He threw for 469 yards, 6 touchdowns,
6 touchdowns.
and 2 interceptions. He had a QB rating of 124.1. They are playing the Bills this week, however. So,
Yeah.
Steven, go ahead and get us started with Boomer Bust for Tua Tagovailoa.
The Bills are just a different machine. So
Passing.
the Dolphins probably have the best receiving core out of everybody that they've played so far this year. The Rams apparently only have Cooper Kupp. The Titans don't have anybody. I think he'll still boom this week. I think he'll do well. I don't think they'll win, but I think he'll do well. He's not gonna have 6 touchdowns, Jesus Christ, but he should get a couple, at least a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
Here's something that people fail to realize. The first half, they were down 28-7. He only threw 1 touchdown in the first half. He threw 5 in the second half. It was his career best game. This outing was exactly what fantasy owners wanted to see out of the Dolphins quarterback when he was placed in a pass-friendly game script. He's not in a pass-friendly game script in week 3. He has a tough matchup against an elite Bills defense. If he performs well against the Bills, he's going to become a very desirable fantasy quarterback. He should be already picked up in all leagues. I will say boom. I don't think he's going to have a 6 touchdown game, but he's going to put up good fantasy points. So I'm going to say boom.
I'm going to agree with Josh on this one and take bust. I think the Bills are a different breed this year. I think the Bills are going into every single game this season with the same mentality that they are going into the game down by 25 points. They are out for blood this year. They demolished the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, but in LA as well, destroyed them. And then week 2, you just put on a fucking clinic. Nobody should beat anybody in the NFL like that. I said it about the Chiefs a week ago, and I'll say it about fucking Bills this week. It should never happen. Like, the skill gap is just not there. It's the NFL. They're all professional athletes. It's just insane. So I'm going to take the Bills to shut down Tua, bring him back down to earth a little bit, and have him struggle in week 3.